John Preston, Country Manager, DSP Relocations Malaysia. Thank you for being on the InvestKL Conversations. John, you're a bit of a global citizen. You've seen the comings and goings, the ebbs and flows of expatriates in the region. Give us a bit of a viewpoint, particularly with regard to Malaysia, in terms of the traction of doing business in the city. Obviously, that's attracted a lot more expatriates to KL than 15 years ago.
Yes, I mean, there's been an amazing growth in the oil and gas sector, most certainly in manufacturing and in the IT sector. That's attracting a lot of expatriates from around the world. We see increased movement, especially from places like the US. Korea is very, very popular. India, as well as the traditional markets of the UK and Australia and New Zealand.
Now, quite clearly, very different profiles of expatriates from the traditional Australia, America, UK kind of expatriates. Now, very much an international flavour. What are the needs of these kinds of expatriates, and how does KL meet them?
So for expatriates settling into Kuala Lumpur, it's very important that the spouse settles down. In Kuala Lumpur, we're very fortunate that we have associations like MANZA, the Malaysian, Australian, New Zealand group, where the community there assists one another. There's a Japanese association, there's an American association, German association, and so forth, where spouses can network and settle in.
Yeah, I mean, John, anecdotally, visually at least, we can see it's very easy for the expatriates. It's a very good life. Now, just referencing your experiences in Thailand as well as in Korea, how does KL stack up against those areas?
Very well. In Kuala Lumpur, especially when I was in Seoul and in Bangkok, the biggest challenge you had really was communication. It's easy to get around. Malaysians, if you pay respect to them, will treat you very friendly and will be very, very helpful. So I think one of the things that is attractive for Kuala Lumpur is communication is easy, and that's very important when you're going to a new country because, let's face it, there's challenges, there's new things to learn.
Yeah. But what about the other issues where the spouses and the families are concerned in terms of weekends and other things like perhaps cost of living issues? How do those areas play up in KL's perspective?
Well, cost of living obviously is quite low. I think Kuala Lumpur was ranked in TripAdvisor of being the 8th most affordable city in the world to live in. So
you work with a lot of customers coming into the city as well as going out of the city. Obviously, the trend must be the fact that there's a lot more coming into KL than there are leaving. Is that a correct assumption?
So we're seeing a general increase in the number of companies bringing expatriates in. And I think that's primarily because let's face it, the accommodation in Kuala Lumpur is fantastic, and there's an oversupply, so it benefits the expatriates, and with the international schooling as well, it also benefits the expatriates because of the low cost and high quality of the schools here. When you look on the British school system, Garden International is ranked 7th in the world in terms of British education, so the quality of education here is outstanding.
Yeah, one other aspect that doesn't really get very much mentioned in the public press, I think, and you having come from the Australian, New Zealand environment as well, is the availability of sports and sporting activities in KL. How do you rank that in terms of the typical sports like, things like maybe, cricket or rugby or football or tennis or things like that?
Yeah, through the expat associations and the schools, I think one of the most popular sports for businessmen is golf. And there's a lot of golf courses and very, very inexpensive.
John, lots of evidence of expatriate families having, come to KL and having come to Malaysia and then staying on beyond, obviously, the tenure of their posting. Many stories in your case as well?
A lot of stories, and a lot of the golfing groups of people that have been around for a number of years, and they clearly enjoy Kuala Lumpur. They might go home for a month or two to their home country, but they love living in Malaysia. I mean, the lifestyle here is good. People are friendly.
Well, you've been coming back and forth for the last 14 years, and now you've been here for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
so.
no, I think I'll stay here.
John Preston, it was an immense pleasure chatting with you, and thank you for spending time with us. John Preston, Country Manager, DSP Relocations Malaysia, thank you for being on the InvestKL Conversations.
Thank you.